Hello, I'm Kathy with a K, sometime radio broadcaster here in Honolulu, Hawaii POV. Actually, I have another thing that's like a podcast Hawaii that I was recording.
Just a conversation.
Yeah, it was like a podcast Hawaii, so that's kind of why I ran with it in that fashion. Very serious. I must not even very serious. Jane Pascual, the lovely Jane Pascual, but she and I actually share a similar kind of sentiment when it comes to video. I was telling her that I'm, coming to terms with when I see myself in pictures or on video, it's like, that's me, whatever angle, whatever lighting. I'm never going to look that good ever again because we're aging rapid pace. So the video, going to cut that out. It's going to be a really cute series of pictures that you may be looking at right now. I don't know. Maybe I'll have like a deer, pue'o. What's your spirit animal?
I believe it's a honu. I used to do water sports all the time. I know this is dangerous, but I used to go out snorkeling on my own in Kailua near the Mokulua Islands, which is kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
And Flat Island as well. I mean, that's not as dangerous as Mokulua, but I used to go out on my own, and I paddled for Lanikai and Kailua Canoe Club.
Wow.
And I used to live in Lanikai, and I'd go out about 10:30 in the morning. These turtles would just come. I'd be sitting at the wall, looking out in the ocean, and all of a sudden these turtles would just come out. It's like they were welcoming me, I don't even know how we got on this.
Is that the lady with the food?
Yeah. No, I had no food, just thoughts.
Oh.
And it was almost like they were, blessing me with their presence.
Wild.
So that's why I say honu, and I don't need to say too much more, but I love the water. Unfortunately, I haven't done as much of that.
We're in February 2019. Jane Pascual. I worked with Jane, or I was at a station many moons ago, and it was KRTR when it was in Kailua, and it was in the mid-1990s.
Yes.
And then later, our paths crossed again professionally at iHeartRadio, or was it Clear Channel?
It was Clear Channel at the time,
yeah.
But it was also transitioning into iHeart very fast during that time.
How did you come to be in Hawaii?
I was born in the Philippines. I did not speak a word of English when I was brought to the United States. I was not a U.S. citizen. I was naturalized in San Francisco, California in 1969. I had roots in Kauai, which is what brought me to Hawaii in the first place. But my parents decided, since they had a home in California as well and relatives in California as well, they decided to send me there to go to school and to broaden my horizons. So I attended kindergarten at Wilcox Elementary School on Kauai, but then the rest of my schooling was in Mountain View, California, San Jose, California. And I did elementary school, middle school, high school, and college in San Jose. Graduated from San Jose State University. After that, I decided, okay, well, I'm going down the wrong path, and we can venture that later if you'd like. I didn't feel I was doing the right thing with my time. So I decided, well, Hawaii has always been a place of peace for me. So I'm just going to go and get some soul searching done on Kauai, where my relatives are, and just hang out there for a month or two and then come back. I had full intentions of having my career and everything in California, but I guess my higher power decided to do something else. And that's where radio came in. My dad, he laughed when I said I was going to go to Oahu and see if I can pursue it. You really think you could do that? I believe were his words. That motivated me. Even in a negative way, it motivated me to do it. In retrospect, probably the wrong motivation, but I'm so thankful that that happened. The best years of my life were pursuing broadcasting as a career. My 25 years right after college were the best years of my life in radio, TV, and print. I'm very blessed to have had that part in my life. Then it was my ex-husband who motivated me even further, because he believed in me more than I believed in myself to continue broadcasting as a career.
Why radio? What was it about the broadcasting industry that appealed to you before you were earning a paycheck?
So in San Jose, I was doing an internship at a TV station. I studied communications in college, and one of my college professors said, and when he said this, it kind of stuck in my mind, you should really pursue radio as a career because you seem to have the voice. And he went into other things. But anyway, he said that. My mind was like, no, TV is where I want to go eventually. This was in college when he said this.
What year was this?
In the 80s.
In the 1980s. These days, radio and TV and print, they are under that umbrella of media and entertainment generally. Very cool that someone would encourage you to go into those fields.
Well, he was a good professor, you know. I really respected him. And still to this day, I don't know what he's doing anymore. His name was Randy Fujishin, by the way. Very good looking at the time. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Swipe right.
So he said that, and then I just kind of kept that in the back of my mind. And then that's when I said to my dad, I think I'm going to go to Oahu and just give it a try. And then I met my husband and ex-husband, and then I didn't have the confidence in myself to do it as full-time as a career. He's the one who pointed out, you do have what it takes. I can see it. You need to see it. He basically just did an intervention and just said, if you don't do this, you may regret it for the rest of your life. At the time, I had studied broadcasting at Columbia School of Broadcasting. I don't know if you remember.
I do.
Did you go through that?
No.
Okay.
That costs money.
Yeah. Well, when I told my dad I'm going to Oahu, that was the reason why I said I was going to Oahu, to attend Columbia School of Broadcasting. When I got into the broadcasting school, another person who has since died, Harvey Weinstein.
I went to school with his daughter, Davin.
Harvey was another person who, my instructor at Columbia School of Broadcasting. He was a great person.
Yeah.
Very good instructor. He and my ex-husband both motivated me to continue with it. Columbia School of Broadcasting placed me in my very first radio job, which was KGU radio, which is
news.
Back then it was news talk. I think it's religious now. I think it's a religious programming.
Well, some people do view news as religion, so samesies, twinning.
Yeah. So that's where it started. And from there, I was very blessed with people who believed in me more than I believed in myself. There was a time in my career where I was doing 4 different jobs at one time and having different names because the managers at the time didn't, I guess they didn't think the listeners would be smart enough to figure out that this is the same person. She's just using a different name.
I think maybe in the past 5 years, maybe 7 years, programmers are more open to just like whatever name
you want to use.
Yeah. You know, when people get married.
Yeah.
Or if they hyphenate their name and, you know, it's like changing in midstream. It's like, that's going to throw people off. They're not going to be able to retain it. It's like, come on.
That's how I got involved in broadcasting. My dad was the original impetus. After that, it was Harvey and my ex-husband who really were my cheerleaders, along with some good program directors that I had. George Rudolph, whom I'm not sure he's doing programming anymore. He was a good motivator as well.
Which station?
That was back in Kumu days, before it was what they're calling the old school station now. KUMU used to be what they called elevator music back then, with only one vocal. It was mostly instrumental, one vocal every quarter hour. In the quarter hour, or was it every hour? Anyway, I think it was every quarter hour, one vocal, but the rest was instrumental of what they call easy listening music, elevator music.
Muzak.
Yeah, Muzak. That was back then. And so that was one of my jobs. And then another one was at Crater doing weekends disc jockey. Well, these were both disc jockey jobs.
So you were a radio personality after you were doing your news stint at KGU?
You know, this is the other thing that I don't like to say I was ever a personality.
An on-air talent?
Okay,
a radio DJ?
That's fair. Yeah. In the beginning of my career, yes, I was a DJ. I think that I was always a news person at heart. I think the journalist in me has always been there, even before I decided to pursue it as a career. But I never saw myself as a personality or, you know, a famous figure or anything like that, because to me, it was fun. You know, I could not believe I got paid to do this.
To do news.
Not just news, but just to be around these crazy people. As you know, there's some crazy people in our business.
Share some of the personalities that you worked with. Traditionally, news is more of a component, more entertainment leaning than
now it is
informational.
Correct.
Right. So when you were doing news, let's go back to KGU. Were you Jane Pascual?
Yes. At KGU, I was Jane Pascual. And the very first thing I started doing was traffic, believe it or not.
That never goes out of style. That and weather.
I do remember the very first time I did traffic, I said Cam Road. And OMG.
Girl. That's why she started off at the top saying, I was originally from California. Well, I'm from the PI and then went to the West Coast.
No, but we got calls. I mean, calls from people who just were irate about who is this girl and why is she saying Cam Highway? Like, oh, dude, man, that was my lesson in, okay, I better say Kamehameha.
Even nowadays, though, there are certain times when the abbreviation fits the situation. And in the same breath, if there's time, just say Kamehameha.
Yeah. Well, I make it a general rule now. After that, and that was years ago when that first happened, but after that, I learned my lesson. This is Hawaii. You better be right. You say something, you better pronounce it right. You better be right about what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm always at odds with putting the right emphasis on the right syllable. Thank you, Mike Myers.
Well, I learned a very hard lesson that way. And so since then, I've tried to be very conscientious about any story I do, and it contains any kind of Hawaiian reference. I make sure to do my research. Any time I'm going to pronounce a Hawaiian name, I better make sure that I get it at least close to one of the pronunciations, because just like any other language, tomato, you know, some people will say kalakawa, but then kalakawa, you know, so I'm very careful as to how, you know, at least if I'm going to pronounce it one way, then I better be consistent that whole way about how I'm going to do it.
For so many years, no one would see what I appear like. IRL. And then I will have a break on the radio where I'll bust into pidgin. And then I'll get a phone call and somebody was like, oh, that was really cute. Just you sounded really good. I'm just like, okay. I guess my non-regional speaking standard voice for Hawaii, it's interesting.
Well, it is very interesting, as you say, because when people see you, they assume, now this is without knowing who you are, you know, Kathy with a K on the radio. Yeah. If they look at you, and this is the same with me, they look at us and they say, oh, local girl, right?
Yes.
But then once we open our mouths, it's like, is she really local? Or
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's video or audio, in person, face to face, everyone has a different interpretation of a certain thing. So you can't control what people think about whatever. Yeah. You just got to say what you say and then own it.
Yeah. I mean it now. Timestamp. Change my mind in 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Especially in politics, you know, people call it evolving. You know, well, I used to think that, but I've evolved just like everyone else, and now I believe this. To the other person who's hearing this or seeing this, they have to determine whether or not they want to believe that person who says they've evolved.
With news, you still do news?
I do not. I am not on the air as of today, but that may change maybe tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. It may change next week.
Oh.
Maybe. We don't know. I have not been on the air since, I want to say, 2013. There was one stint that I did trying out for the new Kumu radio, but that didn't pan out. It was just a tryout. Since my radio days, actually during my radio days, I became very interested in estate planning.
It appears that I'm not listening, but I am, Jane. I totally am. Continue.
Until I said estate planning. No, but
Nudge me awake. No, okay. Estate planning.
yeah.
I don't understand.
Okay, so when I was doing morning news with the Cox Group,
Okay.
that left the rest of the day for me to pursue whatever else I wanted to pursue. I decided to pursue other interests, make some more money. So education was one thing that I pursued. Other jobs. There was a job with, I hope I can say the company, it's called Estate Planning Consultants of Hawaii. And since I had a license in insurance at the time, and I still do, I'm still licensed in life and health insurance, being a producer, selling it. The ad was, and this is back then when there was no internet, it was in the paper as a licensed life insurance salesperson. I don't remember verbatim what the ad said, but basically it caught my eye. I was like, okay, I could do this part-time because it doesn't interfere in my radio schedule. So I'll do this. And the company happened to be Estate Planning Consultants of Hawaii. Once I got into not just the insurance stuff that I was hired to do, estate planning, I really became interested. Like, wow, I would love to study more about this. So the original intent was to go to law school. But of course, I didn't have the money, nor did I have the time because I wanted to dedicate it to my profession, which was broadcasting.
Right.
And that schedule did not allow law school because I don't know if you know this, but law school is really intense. You got to be all in. You cannot be doing part-time stuff or full-time stuff and then try to do part-time law school. That, well, maybe it does now because it's 2019. Back then, it was very intense. You needed to study. The original intent was to do law school, but then I said, well, I have money to do paralegal school. So that was a good backup, which I did. From there, when I got laid off at Cox Radio, thank goodness that I had that to fall back on because the law firm that I was working at the time, while I was working at Cox Radio, they promoted me from working in the accounting department to paralegal. I've done like 10 years of paralegal work while I have been off the air. Because
Wow.
I mean, can you believe?
That's a real job.
That is a real job.
Yeah.
And I mean a real job.
Yeah.
Like where you have to think. You cannot afford to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And you work for people. I mean, you actually have attorneys that tell you what to do and you have a time frame in which to do it and
Talk about deadlines.
to meet.
Yeah.
I mean, there were deadlines in broadcasting as well. You know, you got to be on the air at this time and you have this many seconds to do this and you got to do this billboard. And, you know, I mean, yeah, there's deadlines.
It's a different kind of time crunch,
Exactly.
you know. Within the world of radio broadcasting, there's room to breathe as opposed to, I mean, it's a different set of millions of dollars at stake. I've watched enough TV. I get it.
Yeah, paralegal is work. When I got laid off at Cox Radio, can you believe it will be 10 years? In a year, it'll be 10 years.
Wow.
I know. That's what I've been doing
Yeah.
since being off the air is paralegal work, and radio will always be my first love.
I'm just letting you know that Jane's really fantastic. So many years ago, the way I remember it, in the early to mid 1990s, or actually probably even beyond, it was in 1990 solidly that you were at KRTR.
I say crater. I say Kumu, you say KUMU, you know.
And I say KSSK because any other way it would just be, I don't understand. I know. Hui, that one. I was working at Radio Free Hawaii, and when the station went away in like 1995, the frequency was picked up and the format was this classic rock station, The Blaze, and Brock Whaley was the program director.
Brock Whaley.
I know. I'm going to take you back in time with me. Back in my day.
Oh, my memories of Brock Whaley.
B-Rock. Brock Whaley was the program director. I think Chris Chang was the
Production.
APD.
Yes.
And he was helping out Brock with that. Some of my coworkers from KDEO station, we had to reapply
Yes.
to work there. And I was unsure if I wanted to continue in radio. And I can't remember what the calls were. I guess it was still KDO. And then it was KRTR. Was there another station in Kailua?
Yes, the oldies station. There were actually 2 radio stations when you came, 3 when you came in.
right.
But then after that, it expanded to New Planet Radio. And then after New Planet Radio, Cox bought it.
Was it Valley? Because Austin Valley.
Valley was the original owner of KRTR.
Yeah. See, made you say it. Made Jane say it.
I'm
Holla.
trying to conform to the format.
We are assimilating. I have such fond memories of that brief window when I worked at KRTR. That's where I met Malin Moore, Kimo Akane. In the mornings on KRTR, it was Michael Q sang and Carrie Steele. And then Carrie Steele did middays and Kimo Akane did afternoons. And Kimo Villarimo was doing nights.
Yes, love songs. Love songs on the Crater.
Yeah. And then overnights, which was midnight to 5 or midnight to 6, Chris Chang was there. At that time, it was 94, 95, where the talent was solid. Everything was right about it. That was an aspirational station for me. So when I got to be there, it was great. My head wasn't into it, though. All I knew was Radio Free Hawaii. And so I was just really trying to earn my place when I was at that station. Only somebody called in sick, so they needed a voice to be somewhere. So that's how I got into radio.
You were at the right place at the right time.
I was in the office trying to do sales calls and nobody wanted to bite. So I could spare 5 hours just introducing songs by Metallica. That was fine, you know. But I didn't really think it was like a real job because at the same time, there were people saying, you can't earn a living in radio.
John Matthews! Hi!
How was your hike weeks ago?
It was... Yeah, let's not talk about that. We're actually recording right now.
Oh, sorry.
But regardless of the mic light being on, they're still walking in?
I tell people to just walk in. I'm doing commercials. And so the mic's usually on. And so I'll just like have the mic open and I'm just doing something. So you would never be able to walk in the studio. So that's why it's just like, oh, I was waiting for you to stop talking. I'm like, I never stop talking. I'm going to step out there. There's going to be a row of skeletons with like cobwebs. What happened? They were waiting for her to turn off the mic. It just never happened. How did you get to KRTR? In my mind, Jane Pascual and Crater 96 is part of the legacy of that era of...
Wow. Did you just say legacy?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
There's when I think of that station, especially in the 1990s, like all of that decade, it was like in the 2000s, you know, that's when I was hustling for work. So I didn't pay attention to other stations except wherever I was, you know, kind of thing.
But you're right. In the 2000s is when Cox Radio bought it, and then Crater, which was in Kailua for the longest time.
Yeah, when it moved.
It moved to downtown and merged KCCN, KINE, all those radio stations merged together. It just so happened that same time you were looking for other work, the Crater, KRTR, the Crater.
Yeah.
At one time it was CRATER.
Yes, I remember that.
Right. Cox Radio bought it and it merged with all the other radio.
First, was it already Crater 96? Do you remember the lineup when you were hired?
Yes.
Okay.
I was actually hired as a weekend disc jockey. My name was Miley Marks.
Miley Marks?
That did not come from me. Honestly.
What was his name?
I don't remember how it came about. It was from the program director at the time, maybe, or maybe my ex-husband had a hand in it, or maybe Austin Valley. All I remember is they said, you will be Miley Marks, because this was the time when I was working at multiple stations, including TV on the weekends. So I was Jane Pascual on TV and at Kumu, because it was also a music station, even though different format from Kumu, I had to be somebody else. Miley Marks. So that was my disc jockey name. That was the starting of my career with KRTR.
Yeah. Around what year?
At the time that I got hired as a disc jockey, that was like 80, maybe 89. Solidly, it was 89. But it could have been 88.
Yeah.
Then in 1990, they decided to put me on the morning show doing news.
Who was anchoring the morning program on KRTR?
Austin Valley, and do you remember Frank B. Shaner?
Yes.
That was who was doing mornings at the time.
Wow. Yep. Around that time, radio listening for me was not happening. I got a job. I was working at a record store. And so we were listening to whatever used or new vinyl and cassette tapes.
Oh my gosh.
It was
Let's
another
not
couple
date
of years.
ourselves.
Another year or two before compact discs were all the rage.
Sure. Were 8 tracks and
I think 8 tracks, they were giving away 8 tracks at that point. It wasn't even a nickel bin. It was like,
were there
please
45
take.
still?
Yes. Yes, there were 45s and 12-inch singles.
And the millennials are listening right now going, what are they talking about?
It's not a new thing anymore. Now
Really?
I have a record player in my studio right there.
I was looking at that. Is that real?
And I bought it like 2 years ago. And
At a garage
funnily,
sale?
no, it like one of those box store,
Really?
like Radio Shack.
Wow.
You know, the CD player doesn't work anymore. There is a cassette player on it, but it only plays, like, you just have to play it all the way through. And I think you can fast forward it.
Oh my goodness.
And then you have to, but when you eject it, it like shoots across the room. So it's just like, we're just going to make sure that the record vinyl action is good. That works out. It's more of a gimmick to have the cassette and CD player, but and it has a radio dial thing too. Thing.
Thing.
I use an app for my radio now, so,
Yeah, so that was it. I started weekends as Miley Marks, did that for a year or two, which is why I'm saying I think it was 88 when I started, because by 1990, I was the morning news person for Austin Valley and Frank B. Shaner.
I imagine, because I've heard stories about how Frank B. Shaner is just creatively, he's
very creative.
Yes. And Austin Valley, I've met him and I've spoken to him off and on over the seasons.
He's a business genius.
Yeah, he would be the straight man to Frank B. Shaner.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Frank B.
reining him in.
Shaner was a creative genius, and it was an honor to watch him work. And to him, it was not work. And to me, it was not work either to watch him work, because I could literally see the wheels spinning when he was creating. This man was like Robin Williams, and I wouldn't be surprised if Robin Williams was one of his idols. He would do 5 different voices. And this was the time when computers were not the norm. This is splice tape. Do you remember that? And he had very little time to splice each voice over one another, talk to each voice, as Frank B. Shaner talking to Denise, he had like 5 different characters. And he had very little time to splice all these voices together before the next break or the next song or, what have you at the time. And it was such an honor to watch him go at it. Oh, man, I loved just being around him. Like you said, Austin Valley was a little bit more of a straight person. I learned so much from him. Yes. Mostly business stuff I learned from him. He was like a brother to me. But, these people and... Erica Engel, to me, was my legend. She was my hero. She and Tina Shelton, I don't remember if you remember.
I've seen her on TV. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
She was my TV hero. Leslie Wilcox was a little bit of a hero for me, too. See, this was the era when I started doing news in the morning on Crater, even though I started my news career at KFMN.
Oh.
That was on Kauai.
Yeah.
I mean, my Oahu radio career was KGU. My full-time news career was with KRTR.
What was that like when you got the call? Who brought you into the office Monday morning?
At the time, there were 2 of those people that did that. Austin Valley himself. He was very hands-on.
Yeah.
He was started off as the program director for KRTR, but then became the general manager and then the owner. At the time, I believe he was the owner. So he was very hands-on, though. Yeah. With everything that happened. He, and at the time, the program director was Carolyn. Her last name was Cam at the time. Okay. You may know her as Carolyn Patterson. She was sort of HR at the time.
I don't even remember who I talked to with paperwork. I don't even know if I got paid for those 4 or 5 months I was there. I just remember showing up.
At the time, she was the program director. Austin Valley was the owner he was everything.
His wife was a sales manager.
Linda Valley, who,
right, yeah.
God bless her soul. She passed a couple of years ago.
She was the one who kind of steered the business.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Talk about business sense. That lady had a nose for sales and how a business is run. I mean, business meaning sales, because really, in her mind, you didn't have a business if you didn't have sales.
Yes. It's like, I don't even know why you want to say no to me. Just sign the paperwork, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Like, here it is. Just sign it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not going to sign it? What? Are you out of your mind?
Don't you know what's good for you and your business?
If you were lucky enough to get to know her at home, she was very loving and very good with her daughters, her family. She was a complete family woman. Yeah. They had
great
a good
team.
partnership. Yes. It was very good. I mean, beyond Crater days, they had a very good partnership. So anyway, it was Austin and Carolyn who did the talk.
Yes.
And said, okay, you're done with your weekends, and now we're going to make you full-time, and we're going to have you do news.
And what did doing news at that time for that radio station, what did that involve?
Well, at that time, I didn't have a news team yet. It wasn't until New Planet Radio bought KRTR, Crater. I can't remember his last name right now, but it'll come to me. Jerry, he was the creative genius of New Planet Radio.
Clifton?
Yes, Jerry Clifton. Oh, boy. Yeah, so he was really the one who, thank you, Jerry Clifton, wherever you are. If you're listening, thank you. He was the one who really made a news department for me or gave me the reign to make a news department. I can't remember what year this was. It was still in the 90s. He said, okay, I'm giving you the permission to make a news department. It'll be 24 hours and you can do what you want. Just make it sound good. And we want to kick the butts of KSSK. We want to go head to head with their news department. I don't think I ever beat KSSK, but I came pretty damn close.
I remember it being you. You were the voice of the news for KRTR. Who was involved in making all that information and research possible?
I don't know if you remember her. I hope you do, because Ramsey Wharton.
Yes.
Yo, man,
wow.
That girl. Talk about, she is a natural.
Yeah.
Just a complete natural. She and I basically, because we had the most news sense out of all of them, except for, and I don't want to take away anything from Courtney Harrington.
Wow.
Courtney Harrington is actually, he was there part-time. Courtney Harrington is one of the people, including my ex-husband, Ron Burley, and the others that I had mentioned earlier. Courtney Harrington was very instrumental in my news career as well. I was very lucky to have him part-time as part of my news team. Ramsey Wharton she and I were really the ones that made that news team, and Danielle Tucker was part of it too, and
wow.
Danielle does traffic, and Danielle prior to that was with Q Sang, Michael Q Sang. So Danielle has had a real long career as well.
Yes. That was your news team.
Bill Carpenter was part of the news team. Do you remember Bill Carpenter?
Yes, totally.
Yes. Don, he was part of the team.
We have so much access to information. Like, thank goodness for the internet. That's so great. Like, how do you listen to radio now that you haven't been?
Very little. And it's not because I don't want to. It's just I'm involved in other things. And I do, by default, I love my classical music. Not classical as in Beethoven, but like old school music.
Old school means different things. Like somebody said, oh, I love Pearl Jam. That's like classic rock. I'm like, you shut your mouth.
Yeah, that is not classic in my eyes. But
granted, the child was just born and they were just able to hold their own head up. So I get it. But But it's just like whatever was because I'm sure when I was growing up, the first time I heard Led Zeppelin, I'm like, and being told that that's classic rock, and it wasn't, it wasn't that far removed, kind of thing. So
I like soul music, and the kind of soul music that I like is not played in Hawaii. B-side of an album. Funk.
Okay.
I like my favorite group in the whole wide world, which is not funk. It's Earth, Wind, and Fire, but it's because of the instruments and the music that they made with their voices, especially Maurice White, God bless his soul. But, I just don't feel that music is the same anymore. From starting in the 50s till about the 70s, I believe that's when the best music, and I mean music, to me, music has to make sense in your ear. To me, rap is not music. Rap is rap. And I'm not saying anything against rap. That's an art. Rap to me is an art. Music is like for tops. That when music was written and it was romantic and it made sense. Like the instruments they get to your emotions. But that's just me.
Yes.
That's my interpretation. Could have a lot to do with the way I grew up. I don't know. Well, to me, rap people are going to laugh when they hear this, but Sugar Hill Gang is rap to me. And that was back in, what year was that? Late 70s, 80s?
Yeah.
Even prior to that is rap to me. Confunction, these groups that people are probably going, what? That is not rap.
Yeah.
To me, that's what rap is. Because to me, rap made sense back then. Now it's not making sense, and that's a generational thing. I think.
Yes.
Just like you said, a lot of the rap music that we thought was rap back then is now sprinkled with the new melodic.
Just say it in a way that's it's not good or bad. It's just that's the way it is being presented.
And everything is open to interpretation. To each his own, right?
I could never get into speed metal.
I don't even know that I ever went there. I just don't think I ever went there.
What about country music?
I like country music. My country music that I enjoy is Shania Twain.
Or more pop country.
Pop-ish, but she became popular in the 90s as well. So Lionel Richie, to me, even though people say he's not country, that is country to me. A lot of his music is country. Maybe not in the 70s when he was with the Commodores. A lot of his say you, say me, that's country to me.
If you just put like a little bit of twang.
Yeah. When you listen to it.
There's a storytelling element.
Yeah.
I think
that's
what it
what
is.
Country music is when you're able to tell the story in a song and people enjoy listening to that song. That's what country music is.
Funnily enough, country music and rap music kind of share that. Some people either really enjoy it or really hate it.
Right. And I think
they
it
both
also
have that
depends
storytelling.
on the artist.
Both an aspect of telling of a way of life, losing the job, doing non-traditional streams of revenue. Yeah, country music and rap music. Different kinds of rural.
And now they have the new country. They have the classic country, just like they have classic rock, the new rock. Now they have the new country or the modern country or whatever the kids are calling it now. The new country, I guess, is what they're calling it. I don't know. YouTube, the new YouTube's country stars now. The ones that are coming up now in places that we never knew music to come from. I mean, now music is coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
All medias, those new artists that are doing country music or what they interpret to be country music, that's the new country now. Now, admittedly, I don't know it well enough to say whether or not I like it, but I do like country music that I consider country music. Like I said, Lionel Richie and Johnny Cash, Glenn Campbell, to me, that's country music. I think Glenn Campbell is the grandfather. Maybe that's not accurate. I was going to say he could be the grandfather of country music, but I don't think so. Kenny Rogers is country music to me. But see, we're talking,
That's 1970s, 1980s
Yeah.
when they were the height of popularity. Because then I'm
Kenny
thinking
Rogers,
Dolly
80s.
Parton.
Yeah.
Who else was there? Loretta Lynn. She had a
Yes.
resurgence because of Coal Miner's Daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. The Judds. When I think of country music, I was introduced to Randy Travis in the late 1980s, which I think is when he was coming up. So, like, my favorite song by him is Deeper Than the Holler.
Well, I like Garth Brooks, too.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's country.
You remember when he did Chris Gaines? That was Garth Brooks breaking away and doing pop music. You know, it's kind of like when Justin Timberlake did, you know, from NSYNC and he went solo and it was
right.
very funk and more urban. And then his recent contribution that was kind of like folk acoustic rock. He was, I don't know, Mumford and Sons. I don't know what he was doing. JT was just not trying. He presented an approach to music. And I think with most artists in general, no matter what they present on wax in the moment, they're listening to everything. And so if it appeals to them as they would want to release an album or a single, the resistance would be from the fan base or from their management or whatever saying, but people know you as X. And I think it goes back to when Jane Pascual, when you're doing TV and radio, and then if you're doing another side hustle radio station, you had to go with a different name. Because it's like, you can't be that on this other
Well,
thing.
same thing happened to you. You can't be Kathy with a K.
No.
You've got to be...
Dora the Explorer. Is it kind of a blessing not to be doing news at this moment because of all the other information that's out there, the fake news or like the information that gets retweeted just on the headline alone? You know, did you encounter any of that when you were doing radio news, or the news sources that were vetted, you were cool, that was all you needed to go with?
No, and you know what? You are absolutely right. I am glad that I'm not doing news in this period in time because it really is a joke anymore. And I'm sorry to say that, but some of these people that they call themselves journalists and they're saying these things on the air, and I'm talking about television, not radio.
And not all television.
Not all,
Yeah.
But, you know, there are some people on radio as well that call themselves journalists, and they'll say stuff and that they didn't check their facts, or that's their opinion. That is not fact. And that really just gets me so mad. I can yell at the TV even to this day and go, "What are you doing? You're making the rest of us." And then I have to remember, you're not a journalist anymore.
Yes.
You know, you don't get to call yourself a journalist. But I think you probably feel the same way. Once you're a journalist or once you're a radio person, you will always be a radio person. You will always be a journalist, at heart anyway. You know, it's inherent in me to be nosy. That is my nature. I need to be nosy. I'm not as aggressive as I used to be in terms of being nosy and trying to get the whole story. I still have that nose, you know, like I need to know.
Do you ever think, I really want to help get correct information out there? Do you have a blog, or do you use...
No, I don't have a blog, and I don't do social media, and I don't have a problem
so lucky.
saying that. Oh, well, thanks. I mean, no, really, the reason why I don't do social media is I just don't need to be involved in everybody else's lives, and I really don't give a and whether or not they're involved in mine. You know, I have a hard enough time trying to organize and do me. Why do I need to be in anybody else's business, and why do I need to tell other people how to think or how to do? You know, just let me do my thing, and I don't really care. If I want to know about you, I will call you up. That is my method of communication.
That is
not
wild.
social media.
You're never in a position where somebody says, you need to be on Twitter, or you need to be active on Facebook,
I
or...
have been so very lucky that everywhere I have gone, there have been a few employers that have said you need to, and I have, but I didn't stay there long enough. And I'm so lucky that I'm not in a job that requires me to be on social media. The only social media I'm on is LinkedIn, and that is because it's deemed to be a professional, you know, professionals go on there. People who want to network professionally, not necessarily be social in a business sense.
Yeah.
And that is the only reason why that's my only social media that I do. But I don't care to go on Facebook. I don't care to do Twitter. I don't care to do any of that. And unfortunately, the president has made it unattractive for me.
Trump.
Yeah.
We want to be clear.
Yeah,
because...
let's be clear, Trump. And I'm so glad I'm not a news person, because I wouldn't know how to reconcile some of the stuff that is true news and, like you say, fake news or made up news or whatever. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah. Because even before social media, I would have to try to figure out on my own which newspapers, columnists, try to understand which news service was just news. Even, I think, before the onset of the internet and social media, where I have a challenging time reading articles and trying to understand, is it an opinion? I can't tell, because the lines have blurred so much that it's just... This is just factual information.
And the meaning of news has also evolved.
Yes, yeah.
I guess I don't even want to say evolved. It has changed.
Yeah.
The meaning of the word news is no longer what I deemed to have been news when I was doing news. Yeah. Now I look at it and go, what? You think that's news? That is not news. Yeah. But then again, everything is open to interpretation, to each his own.
Any parting words? I don't know how we're going to end this.
I don't know either, because we could go on and on. That's what I love about radio. You asked me this earlier, and I don't think I answered it adequately. The reason why I chose radio over all the other medias is because, to me, it was the most natural. Like, it was inherent in me to just do it. To me, TV, you have to check with too many other people to get one thing done, where radio is really on the fly. I mean, you can ad lib right then and there. In my opinion, as long as it's accurate, go with it. You don't have to check with 10 other people. Let's just say this now. And if it happens to be wrong, you apologize for it next time you open the mic.
Yeah.
You know, TV's a lot different. Print is way different than both radio and TV. So I prefer radio. It will always be my first love.